talk local basketball, Mike. We got some colleges going on right now. My parents have gotten into this now. They've actually gone the last 2 games. My father said last night, "Hey, find out when F&M plays again." He's really
again with the name dropping, Starkey.
Yes, exactly.
I can't fault you in this case though, because it's your parents. For God's sake, no problem.
It helps when it comes to the will.
God love you.
My mom likes watching Glenn Robinson. Actually, he gets really animated during his games. And
we all like watching Glenn.
I'll tell you what, the Gettysburg gave him a heck of a game, and it really came down to the end. But there's some players for F&M that are worth watching. I like McNally, who reminds me a lot of Jeff Ruland, former Washington Bull.
Sure, he would be enormously flattered by that comparison.
The low post, the way the little jump shot he has. But there's some really good guards with F&M. Glenn's got a good team here, and they're 23-4 right now.
Yeah, 23-4. And Glenn Robinson, we're talking about Glenn Robinson, the coach at F&M. He is the all-time winningest coach in Division III, and he's one of the all-time winningest college basketball coaches. Period. Any division. And F&M for a while had a down period, and this current group has really turned it around. And particularly when they were able to recruit a kid from New Jersey, point guard named Giorgio Milligan. He really is an athletic kid who really runs the show for them and has really, since he got there, well, last year they went to the Final Four, and this year they're 23-4, Centennial Conference champions. They're in the Division III NCAA tournament again. And, you would think they have a shot to go pretty deep.
I like Anthony Brooks. Really good defensive mind. And Gordy Jones had a story in last week's morning newspaper about him. But he's very defensive minded, but he can score, gets to the hoop, very athletic.
And he's one of those kids who kind of got here by mistake. He was in Florida, and not by mistake, but just not a traditional recruit. And he was in Florida going to another school, and so often that happens with these small colleges where they get a kid who's a transfer who doesn't normally fit your image of a Division II or Division III player who ends up there, and he really has become an asset to their team.
I think the Achilles heel I see with this team, and almost bit them against Gettysburg in the Centennial Conference Championship, is their foul shooting. Late in games, they obviously you shoot different late in game than you do at the beginning of the game.
It shouldn't be, because knowing those kids, they're a decent shooting team.
And knowing Glenn Robinson, you would think it would.
Yeah.
But McNally, Brooks, these guys are not great foul shooters, and it really came back to haunt them, almost to a point where they lost. But Gettysburg got back in the game because they started fouling them, and F&M wasn't hitting their shots.
This Division III tournament is really a pretty cool event, and it doesn't get a whole lot of national publicity, obviously, but a lot of teams, and MIT is in it this year.
Really?
You don't think of MIT as having sports teams at all. Brandeis.
They built the car. They built the car they're going to take to get
Exactly.
there.
Brandeis, Williams College,
wow.
Schools like this. On the other hand, on the other side of it is, there's teams that there's certain parts of the country where they don't really have a lot of these small liberal arts colleges, and they don't really have Division II schools the way we do here, state schools. So, like in Wisconsin, for years and years in the Division III tournament, Wisconsin Whitewater, Wisconsin Stevens Point. Well, I looked at the bracket, and F&M won't have to play either of them until they get to the Final Four.
Okay.
And there's a University of Texas at Dallas is another one. That's probably not your Amherst-type college, if you know what I mean. All of those three, they would not face until the Final Four. So that's kind of what I look at when I look at that tournament. Who knows what's going to happen? They could play real deep, or they could lose in the first round. But it's a lot of fun.
They're going to be playing Oneonta State.
Oneonta, yeah, upstate New York.
It's at U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. Come on, who's the famous person?
George Paterno is the former football coach, the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy.
You heard it here first.